$311 million in Bexar County money would only be one source of funding for a new Spurs arena. The arena is estimated to cost $1.3 billion. The city of San Antonio could pay up to $489 million. Plus, Spurs would pay $500 million, and they promised $1.4 billion in private development around the arena that the city could generate money from. Our Myra Arthur breaks down how.
The city would contribute up to $489 million, or 38% of the cost of the new arena, whichever is lower. A little over half of the city money would come from two sources. First, rent. The Spurs will pay the city to use the arena, and private developers will pay the city to lease land around it. And second, guaranteed development. The Spurs and private developers promise $1.4 billion in development around the arena. The city will collect the property tax growth from that development and put it toward the arena.
That is money that doesn't exist without this project happening, correct?
That's correct. It doesn't exist, really it doesn't exist but for the guarantee that we would contractually utilize with the Spurs and their developer.
What if it doesn't happen and the city doesn't get the money it's expecting from that?
The Spurs and the developer would be contractually obligated, and we would not make any contribution to towards the arena until those things occurred. So everything's got to happen at the same time.
It becomes a Spurs obligation and an obligation of its partners.
The other portion of the city's financial contribution comes from that same hotel occupancy tax. The state of Texas collects a 6% fee on hotel stays in San Antonio. The city can use that money to pay for a project in a 3-mile zone around Hemisphere. It's called a project finance zone. State legislation in 2023 made that possible.
We can use it for expanding the convention center. We can do it to improve the Alamo Dome, and we can utilize it for a new arena. Those are the only 3 uses that we can utilize that state revenue on.
So what happens if projects in those 3 areas don't happen for the city of San Antonio? Where's the money go?
So the money is literally held by the comptroller until we have a project. And so if we don't do any of those 3 projects, then the state will retain that money and it'll go into the state's general fund.
Under the law, the city cannot use that money for things like street maintenance, police officers, or firefighters, or other core services the city pays for.
Now let's take a look at what's on your ballot tomorrow. Proposition B, or Prop B, is going to ask voters to approve 2 things: increasing Bexar County's 1.75% tax on hotel stays up to 2%, and then using that money to pay for part of a new Spurs arena. Prop B is also asking voters to use the county's existing 5% tax on car rentals to pay for the arena as well. Those 2 sources would add up to roughly $311 million in county funding for the arena. Prop B is not an increase in sales tax or any property taxes. Now, Prop A, on the other hand, aims to take care of the Freeman Coliseum and Frost Bank Center should the Spurs leave for downtown. That proposition asks voters to use those same 2 tax sources, the increased hotel tax and car rental tax, to allow the San Antonio Rodeo to become the year-round tenant of those locations and make upgrades. If voters say yes, $198 million in county money would go towards that. Now, it's important to note venue taxes cannot be used on core services like streets, sidewalks, or public safety.
This will be my first election as a San Antonio voter, so I'm bringing you along my own journey to make sure I'm registered to vote this November.
By the way, all these resources are available at ksat.com/vote.
First, I'm going to votetexas.gov to make sure I'm registered to vote.
I'm entering my name, date of birth, and zip code, and it shows the word active right here, so that means I'm good to vote.
Now let's talk about what to bring. Everyone needs an ID to vote in Texas, and this can include a driver's license, a voter registration card, a DPS-issued public safety card, a U.S. military ID, a citizenship certificate, or a passport. You can also bring notes about the candidates to reference as you vote, as long as it's not visible to others. But you'll want to leave the Spurs jersey at home. No clothing or signs supporting a political candidate, party, or ballot measure are allowed in the polling place. And this year, that includes Spurs and rodeo gear. Now all that's left to do is figure out where to vote. Bexar County voters can vote at any polling place, even on election day. The list of polling places and their hours can be found on the Bexar County Election Department's website. Christian Riley, KSAT 12 News.
Okay, early voting in Bexar County starts tomorrow, and you can vote on weekdays from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Then coming up on Saturday, the 25th, polls are going to be open from 7 to 7. The following Sunday, voting hours are noon to 6. And then from the 27th all the way to the Halloween, polls are open every day from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Don't forget, Election Day is Tuesday, November 4th. Those polls are going to be open the same hours. All right, folks. If you got nerd in you, a little bit of lover of comics, TV, or movies, or you just want to dive into the world of fandom, listen up. Today is the last day for the Big Texas Comic-Con at the Henry B. Gonzalez Convention Center. Take a look at that right now. That's our photographer, Everett Allen, who's there, giving you guys a little bit of an early look at some of the festivities before they kick off later this morning. That's going to be over at 10 a.m. There's going to be a ton of celebrity guests, insider panels, live comedy, and some immersive fan experience. Whether you like watching The Boys on Amazon Prime, you've seen Jason Isaacs from Harry Potter and the White Lotus, and Jamie Campbell Bower from Stranger Things and the Twilight Saga. For more information and a link to buy tickets, you can head over to KSAT.com. You might know I really eat that stuff up.
Yeah,
I'm a big fan of it.
What is your go-to for a Comic-Con?
Ooh, that's a good question. I always like a lot of the video game stuff. I think that's pretty cool. I like seeing how people like really dress up and all of these like awesome, amazing cosplays, and it's pretty cool.
That is so awesome.
They don't always seem weather appropriate though. I can imagine they might be a little chilly if they're headed out this morning with the wind.
We're going to be cosplaying fall for the next about 2 days or so because a front is moving through, but it's weak when it comes to temperatures. Take a look across the nation. This system has really been dynamic for areas like Chicago, a good portion of the nation, getting some storms too, even some hail and some damaging storms. We are on the tail end of this system and we have not gotten any rain, and we will not get any rain from this system. Instead, what we're seeing is drier, cooler air moving in from the north, which is, hey, that's something. Temperatures are in the 40s in the Panhandle. Right now it's 64 in Bulverde, 63 in Bernie, 62 in Comfort, and 63 in Kerrville. It does feel a little bit cooler out there right now, and it is definitely windy. Take a look at these wind gusts. 37-mile-per-hour wind gusts in Helotes on the northwest side of Bexar County. 28-mile-per-hour wind gusts at the airport. 32-mile-per-hour wind gusts at Port SA. The next couple of hours, we are going to be able to see wind gusts of up to 35 to even 40 miles per hour. Now, by the lunch hour, things will be closer to about 25 miles per hour, and in the afternoon, winds will really start to calm. So right now, we're dealing with the windiest of the weather. That's bringing in some of that cooler air in from the north. Now, take a look at your KSAT 12-hour forecast. By about noon, it'll be sunny, 80 degrees, and it's around noon that we'll start to see those winds start to die down a bit. And then 87 for the high. Yes, that is still warm, but it is cooler than yesterday. Yesterday, we got up to 93 for the high, which was a record for the day. So, again, this is an improvement. That being said, highs are still going to be close to 90 degrees for Del Rio, Eagle Pass, Pleasanton, even 96 in Laredo. The front has yet to move through that area. Meanwhile, low 80s for parts of the hill country. Right now, relative humidity is at about 50%, but watch what happens throughout the day. Relative humidity values fall into the teens and low 20s. That's some very dry air. That dry air combined with the gusty winds means that fire danger is high today. So there are a few things that we can do to avoid starting or spreading grass fires. Mainly no campfires or burn piles, and disposing of cigarettes properly. Another thing I'd like to add is don't park your vehicles on grass, especially tall grass. It is so dry out there. We have not had any rain, and your hot car on the dry grass could end up creating a fire. By tomorrow morning, you're really going to notice the cooler weather because tomorrow is likely going to be our coolest morning since May. We're going to be seeing morning lows in the upper 50s around San Antonio, low 50s in the hill country. But here's the thing, it will be short-lived. We are going to climb to 90 degrees in the afternoon tomorrow. And then for the week ahead, honestly, a pretty warm forecast for us. We'll be in the 80s on Wednesday. Other than that, though, near 90 degrees every single day. And then take a look at Friday. There is a small chance for some rain on Friday, about 30% chance. We'll talk a little bit more about that coming up in the next half hour. But that chance for rain comes because of another cool front. On Saturday, our highs may only be in the low to mid 80s. And I've got a reminder about our pollen count coming up in the next half hour.
Awesome. Sounds good, Sarah. Appreciate it. Thanks. All right, time right now is 8:20 here in San Antonio. 69 degrees outside. We'll have a little more GMSA coming up after this. All right, taking a look outside with TransGuide. There's the sun starting to peek out over here. Now you can see the camera wobbling a little bit in some of these shots, like Sarah Spivey's been talking about. It's a little windy outside, but besides that, things are looking pretty good on the roads overall for San Antonio. Whether you're headed out for some grocery shopping, any last minute fun before your week starts coming up here, stick with us on here at GMSA. We're going to keep you updated with everything you need to know for your weekend. All right, time right now, 8:24 here in San Antonio, 69 degrees outside. Coming up, there's a recall alert this morning for a brand of cinnamon. What the FDA says could be in your pantry still ahead. Plus, DNA was the key to one of Bexar County deputies' latest arrests. We're going to explain why the National DNA Database slowed things down and how it all works. Welcome back. Coming up here at 8:30 on your Sunday morning, joined by Sarah Spivey. Seeing double after that promo.
Oh, yeah, and I believe in that commercial I said, I know how important fall is, and I do. And I wish I could say that this front was stronger than it was, Devin, but it is going to allow for us to have a cooler morning tomorrow. Pretty good. Yeah. I want to remind people, though, about our pollen count. It's on a bit of a hiatus. The allergen who reports to us the pollen every day is taking a little bit of a break. They will be back Tuesday, October 21st. It is the middle of ragweed season, though, so if there's an issue with your allergies right now, it might just be that ragweed. All right, let's take a look at temperatures across the state of Texas. It is only 40 degrees in Amarillo, only 43 in Lubbock, only 59 in Dallas. The cooler air is pushing south. It is drier, too. Yesterday, we hit a record high of 93, tying a record set back in 2007. And today, we're going to be about 5 to 10 degrees cooler than that. Outside right now, temperatures are in the low 60s up in Kerrville and in Comfort at 69 in San Antonio. But the big thing are the winds. Winds are gusting up to about 30, 35 miles per hour, even 40 mile per hour wind gusts right now in Gonzales. So because of those gusty winds and the low humidity, we have fire danger this morning and throughout a good portion of the day. But by tomorrow morning, we are going to have lows in the 50s. It'll be our coolest morning since May, but short-lived because this week will still be near 90, and coming up, we're going to talk about a small rain chance by the end of the week. I'll have the latest in just a few. Devin.
Thank you, Sarah. These three officers you see on your screen here are going to be back in court tomorrow morning for the death of Melissa Perez back in 2023. On Friday, Officer Andrew Chernak, who was there but was not charged, testified that they planned to use less than lethal force to detain Perez. He said that he heard gunshots while trying to enter her apartment through a window. Chernak also said that Alfred Flores was the officer in charge that night. Police were called in because Perez cut the fire alarm and she was experiencing a mental health crisis. Now it's up to the jury to decide if the officers followed protocol. An arrest in a year-old murder now has people wondering why the suspect allegedly did it. Bexar County Sheriff's investigators say they recently linked 23-year-old Samuel Charon to the murder through DNA. He's accused of sexually assaulting and killing 63-year-old Stacy Dramiga in September of last year. Her body was found just off of a walking trail near DeFost Park. The site is steps away from Charon's home on Como Street, where neighbors say he seemed to be carrying on with life as usual.
He would be out here every day walking up and down the street at night. And
I've been here for a long time, and for somebody to do that in the park is terrible.
Charon was arrested Wednesday on a charge of capital murder. Some neighbors say the news comes as a relief, while others are shocked to find out he had been living among them the whole time. And we now know it was Charon's DNA that tipped off deputies, so why did it take a full year? Sheriff Javier Salazar says it has to do with a national DNA database called CODIS. Courtney Friedman heard that and wanted to know more, so she followed through with the Bexar County Sheriff to see just how that system works.
Well, if you don't work in law enforcement, you likely don't know what CODIS is. Don't worry, I didn't know either. It's an acronym for Combined DNA Index System. It's the national DNA database run by the FBI. It records samples from crime scenes, convicted felons, or felony arrests. So why are we talking about it today? Well, because we're told it is the key that solved a year-long murder case right here in Bexar County.
A forensic sample, something taken from a crime scene. We don't know who this person is, but we have their DNA here. We'll enter that in, and then what it starts doing is it starts running it through the systems, and it has to exhaust the local one before it moves on to the state. Once that's exhausted, it'll move on to the national.
Bexar County Sheriff Javier Salazar said that's what happened with DNA found at the scene where 63-year-old Stacy Dramiga was attacked and killed last September. DNA was collected from Stacy and a rock, the alleged murder weapon. It was entered into CODIS, yet nothing in the system matched it. That is, until this week. Salazar says, thanks to a new law.
Came into place a couple of years back where anybody being booked into the jail on felony charges, even if it's a nonviolent felony, we need to be taking a DNA swab.
Turns out the suspect, 23-year-old Samuel Charon, was booked in the Bexar County Jail on felony criminal mischief charges back in April. Those charges were eventually dismissed, but the swab was already on its way to the lab.
October 13th is when we got the notification that it was a positive match. 2 days later, we had him in handcuffs.
The obvious observation, it took almost 6 months from the time Charon was swabbed to when his DNA hit a match in the CODIS system.
I would love to see those samples come to us much quicker, because you never know. You know, between the course of several months like that, there's a lot of bad things that can happen.
But his focus now is that there is a murder suspect in hand, thanks to a system most people knew nothing about. Courtney Friedman, KSAT 12 News.
Some of your morning headlines. Another cinnamon product has been recalled due to a possible lead contamination. And the latest recall involves the Hey Tay brand of cinnamon powder you see on your screen. It was sold in an 8-ounce square bottle with a best by date of February 9th, 2025. The product was sold at various supermarkets nationwide. The FDA says no injuries or illnesses have been reported in connection to this specific recall. Consumers should return the product to the store for a full refund. And also, speaking of lead, protein shakes and powders are booming in popularity, promoted as workout fuel or even meal replacements. But as Patty Santos shows, a new investigation by Consumer Reports reveals a hidden danger. Some of the supplements contain worrying levels of lead.
Consumer Reports tested 23 popular protein powders and shakes. The results? Over 2/3 contain more lead in a single serving than what CR experts consider safe for an entire day. In some cases, levels were more than 10 times higher. Plant-based products had the most concerning results.
Specifically, when it came to plant-based powders, they had some of the highest levels of lead. They were 9 times higher than the dairy-based protein powders we tested, and they were double that of the beef-based powders we tested.
Naked Nutrition's Vegan Mass Gainer tested roughly 1,570% of Consumer Reports' daily lead limit. Huel's Black Edition vegan powder also raised concerns with more than 1,200%. According to our experts, these products should be avoided altogether. A spokesperson for Huel said its ingredients undergo rigorous testing and that it was confident in the current formulation and safety of the products. In response to our findings, Naked Nutrition has requested a third-party test of its Mass Gainer supplement powder and said, "We take our customers' health very seriously." What about other types of protein supplements?
When it comes to the dairy-based protein powders and shakes that we tested, we found that they had the lowest amounts of lead generally. Still, about half of the products that we tested had concerning enough levels of lead or other contaminants that CR's experts advise not to use them daily.
Nutritionists say most people don't even need protein supplements. Everyday foods like beans, tofu, eggs, dairy, fish, and lean meats already supply enough. But if you use powders, experts say be careful. Consumer Report experts say given the risk, you may want to use these only occasionally. Patty Santos, KSAT 12 News.
Consumer Reports also points out that one of the nutrients most people are missing is fiber, and it's key to better long-term health. Federal dietary guidelines recommend adults get between 22 and 34 grams of fiber daily, depending on your age and sex. Time right now here in San Antonio is 8:37, 69 degrees outside. Coming up next, students in New Braunfels can't check out books from the library right now. The district is reviewing those book materials to follow a new state law. We're going to tell you what that means and hear from a parent coming up next. Plus, we are less than 24 hours away from an important deadline for students here in Texas. What you need to know if you're applying to college for this fall.
And we are seeing winds pick up. It is a gusty morning. Those gusts allowing for elevated fire danger, but eventually winds will calm and we'll have our coolest morning since May. Details soon.
Good morning. Coming up on This Week, millions of Americans took to the streets this weekend for so-called No Kings rallies against what they say are authoritarian actions by President Trump's administration. Demonstrations Republicans have called hateful and un-American. This is the government they are protesting remains shut down, an impasse that shows no signs of ending. I will speak exclusively with Speaker of the House Mike Johnson and the top Democrat in the House, Hakeem Jeffries. And this week's indictment of Trump's former national security advisor and critic John Bolton marked another escalation in the administration's retribution campaign against Trump's political enemies, as the president commuted the sentence of his ally, former congressman and convicted fraudster George Santos. We will also take a look at the human impact of the White House's mass deportation campaign. All that coming up and more on This Week.
All right, any Texas students out there, listen up. It's your last day to save hundreds of bucks if you're planning to go to college. That's all thanks to a new law in Texas that waived college application fees for 1 week this month. It's called the Free Application Week, and students must apply through the Apply Texas website to get the benefits.
We see a lot of students that the price and just the idea of having to spend so much money on college really just deflects them from attempting.
Again, today, going all the way up till 11:59 p.m., you can apply to any public college or university in the state with all your fees waived. To do it, you just have to go online to applytexas.com. Meanwhile, students at a New Braunfels ISD don't have access to check out books from their libraries right now. That's because the district is reviewing all of its library material to make sure they line up with the standards of a new state law, Senate Bill 13. The district says the law requires school library materials to be free of anything that's considered harmful, indecent, or profane content. Those exact definitions are explained in law, and KSAT's Madeline Lambert is breaking that down for us after she sat down with the parents who said she's frustrated with the decision from the district.
How can you shut down a library in a middle school during the school year?
That's what students at New Braunfels ISD are experiencing right now. The Board of Trustees voted on Monday to suspend student access to the libraries for secondary schools.
The district says it's going to review their current books and resources to make sure they are compliant with Senate Bill 13.
They are looking to make sure their library materials are free of any content that may be indecent, harmful, or profane. In short, the law defines those terms as material that's sexually inappropriate for minors or patently offensive.
Amy Payne is a New Braunfels ISD parent who is worried about how the new law is censoring books students should have a choice to read.
If a child goes into a library, they have the option to look at books, hold books, open them up, look at them, and choose, do they want that book or do they not? That's part of learning critical thinking.
The district currently has more than 195,000 books and resources, and they're going to close their libraries to review all of them. They didn't say how long that may take.
Senator Angela Paxton, who wrote SB 13, has repeatedly said this bill is to protect students from sexually explicit material.
No child should pick up a book in their school library, of all places, and see sexually explicit, harmful material within its pages. Their young brains cannot unsee what they have seen.
Clay Robson with the Texas State Teacher Association believes the suspension of libraries at New Braunfels ISD is unnecessary.
But to shut down student access to library books where they can review every book that's on the shelves is an overreach and a disruption, an unnecessary disruption of the educational process.
New Braunfels ISD stated that the district does not intend to permanently close its libraries, but students will not have access to them during the review.
We also try to sit down with New Braunfels ISD superintendent to learn more about this process, but she was unavailable by the time this aired. Madeline Lambert, KSAT 12 News.
Well, for some good news back here at home, Allison, a patient at Christus Children's living with dysautonomia, got to live out her dream thanks to Children's Miracle Network hospitals. As a huge Jonas Brothers fan, she attended their San Antonio concert with her family on Saturday and even got some VIP meet and greet passes to meet the band, as you see in the picture there. Despite some of the challenges of her condition, the hospital says Allison's positivity inspires many, and the special experience brought her and her family some joy and hope. All right, folks, last day, if you want to go and see some of the fun at Comic Convention here in Texas, this is it. Live at Big Texas Comic Con, our photojournalist Everett Allen is taking a look at what things are going to look like before everything opens up for the last day today at 10 a.m. There's plenty of booths of vendors and chances to meet different celebrities, whether you like watching The Boys on Amazon Prime TV, or you've seen Jason Isaacs from Harry Potter, White Lotus, even some characters from Stranger Things and Twilight. It's all over here this morning. For more details and tickets, you can follow the link on KSAT.com to see more of what's in store to come for this last day of Comic-Con. Good stuff over there.
There you go. And in typical millennial style, I was a big Harry Potter head.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so.
You gonna go get a wand or anything after this?
No.
Yeah.
I wish I could, but hey, it is so good to have all of these events happening in San Antonio, show off our city.
Right.
And this morning, people are getting a windy exhibition of San Antonio. It is very, very breezy. Outside right now, it's 69 in San Antonio, 54 in Abilene, and 61 in Dallas. Temperatures are falling behind this front, but the biggest impact that you're noticing are the winds. Let's go ahead and take a little bit of a look closer to San Antonio. It's only 64 in Kerrville, 61 in Rock Springs, and 64 in Del Rio. You can clearly see where the front is because it's still in the low 70s down near Laredo, mid 70s in Corpus Christi. The winds are breezy. We've already seen a few wind gusts of up to about 35 miles per hour. Right now in New Braunfels, a wind gust of 37 miles per hour. So in the next couple of hours, we could see a wind gust of up to about 40 miles per hour at the most. But then very quickly, the winds are going to subside. And in the afternoon and early evening hours, we're actually going to be experiencing a calm wind. That being said, because of the gusty conditions and because of much drier air moving in from the north, there is an elevated fire danger for all of these areas that you see in this orange color. It includes San Antonio, New Braunfels, Seguin, up toward Austin. Basically, any fires that develop could easily spread because of the dry conditions. So a few things to keep in mind. Make sure to fully extinguish cigarettes. Try to avoid the burn piles today if you live in a more rural area. And again, the winds will subside later on today. We just got to get through this morning. Gusty winds will be at 71 at 10, 80 at noon. Totally sunny skies with low humidity. And yes, we're still going to be warm. We're still going to be at 87 degrees today, but that 87 is cooler than yesterday. Yesterday, we had a record high of 93. So again, an improvement, and it'll only be in the low 80s the farther north you go. 83 in Helotes, 83 in Kerrville, 84 in Comfort, 85 in Bulverde. We still will reach 90 degrees though south of San Antonio, but again, it's a dry heat and very, very pleasant with total sunshine. By tomorrow morning, you'll notice more so that the cool front moved through because morning lows are expected to be in the 50s. This will be the coolest start we've had since May in San Antonio. A morning low of 58 degrees, even closer to 50 degrees farther north and northwest you go. So a cool start tomorrow. And then in the week ahead, it's going to be fairly quiet and we're going to warm up to near 90 degrees. The one thing we're watching is that on Friday, there is the potential for some rain. It's a small chance right now. We're talking about a 30% chance along a cool front. Friday, our next cool front arriving could spark off a few showers and storms, 30% chance. But again, after that cool start tomorrow, we're really going to kind of go back to that hot October forecast we've been experiencing. We may just end up having the most 90-degree days on record for a month in the October month, and it could even be our hottest October ever. We are off to a very slow start to fall, so it's nice to see that tomorrow morning it'll actually feel like fall, even if it's a false fall and only lasting for a couple of hours.
So even though it's still about a week away, honestly, probably a little longer than that, when it comes to Halloween.
A little too soon to tell,
Gotcha.
but I wouldn't be surprised if it was cooler than it is now.
Okay.
You know,
Good to have.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Sarah. Appreciate it. All right, time right now is 8:51 here in San Antonio, 69 degrees outside. Taking a look at TransGuide before we head out. Road conditions looking pretty great for drivers out there. Not a cloud to be in the sky to be seen in that shot. We'll have you covered for what the rest of your Sunday's got planned here on GMSA. Stick with us for more.